Hi everyone, Amber here from So Majestic. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today we're sewing up month 8 of Cotton Cut's Spring 2023 Puzzle Mystery Quilt, the Village Green. As always, I am sewing up a small cornflower. So let me know if you've been enjoying the videos and if you have signed up for the Fall Puzzle Mystery Quilt. Alright, so we are already on month 8. As always, I am sewing up the small cornflower colorway. So I have my chart here with the different color fabrics, and I have our instructions. This month we have 2 different sections, 8A and 8B, and we're making 2 of each. On the bottom here, where it shows the pieces in the pack, I have mine laid out already. I find it easier for me to lay them out exactly what they look like here because some of the colors are similar. So you can see here my fabric A and D, sometimes a C and F. So if the fabrics look similar, I find that having it laid out like this helps me a lot. Alright, and I am also sewing on my older Singer. It's a Singer 5528. I have a 7010 Schmetz universal needle, and I have my wool pressing mat and mini iron here, just so I don't have to get up, I don't have to move. Everything is where I can see it. Alright, so let's start on section 8A. For this, I am going to be sewing up 1 of each section. So for this, you are going to need 2. So you can see here where it says 2, I'm only going to do 1, but you can do 2. Okay, so our large square C, and for me, my C color is this green color. And we are pressing a small triangle A to both sides. And my triangle A is this light gray fabric. I always double check because on my colorway, sometimes the front and the back look very, very similar. Okay, and then I like to lay out my pieces exactly how they are going to be attached, so that way I do not get confused. And because this square is so large, I'm actually going to just clip both and sew both at the same time. And I'm just taking a second to line these up without pulling on it so I don't accidentally stretch my fabric. I'm especially careful when it comes to triangles. And I prefer clips over pins, but you can use whatever is easiest or best for you. And I know that some people sew at a scant 1/4 inch. I can never get that correct, so I am sewing at an exact 1/4 inch. But it's fine because I have done all my blocks like that. Like I said, I'm going to sew both sides at once so I don't have to bring it back over to the machine. And I always clip everything as close as I can to the fabric. While I'm sewing, it just makes it easier for me in the long run. Okay, and our arrows are pointing out towards the A triangles, so that means that we are pressing our seams in that direction. I forgot a piece there. So I gently press open with my fingers. I don't want to accidentally stretch the fabric. Okay, I almost forgot because it doesn't show the picture and I'm very visual. So on our piece here that we just made with the C and the 2 on the top, we also need to do it to the top left and the bottom right. Right, so again, I'm going to lay them out nicely first, and because everything is die cut, this triangle lines up perfectly. And just like the last one, I'm going to clip both of them and sew both of them at the same exact time. And I'm just making sure I trim all my sides. All right, and I'm going to give it a nice press. Our seams are pressed towards the outside triangles. I have a lot of seams where the point is, so I'm just taking my time to make sure it's nice and hot, pressing it down. Okay, and I'll set that to the side. Okay, now we are on step 2. I need a small rectangle F, which is my darker fabric. And again, 2 small triangle A's. They're going to go on top and to the right. So again, I'm going to make sure that I have the correct sides facing up. And again, I like to lay everything out. And our directions show us that we are going to do the one on top first. All right, and then this lines up perfectly because they are die cut. I'm not going to bother clipping this one because it's small enough I can hold it in my hand. All right, and we are pressing our seams towards the F square. So I am going to press the back first and then carefully fold this open and give it a nice press again. And we are going to attach our second triangle to the right hand side. I am going to use a clip for this one because you can see my triangle goes a little bit past the seam here, so it just helps hold it in place better for me. And again, our seams are being pressed towards the square. So I'll give the back a press first and then gently open. Okay, we are now on step 3. We need a large D triangle, which is my darker gray with the gold flecks, and a large B triangle, which is my white fabric. Okay, and I'll line them up nicely. They should fit together perfectly. I'm going to clip them in place because it's a larger triangle. And our seams are going to be pressed towards our D fabric, which is the darker triangle. Okay, and our step 4, we are going to join the piece that we just made, our D and B, with the piece that we made in step 3. Okay, so you can see my B and D are on the bottom, the left side, and this piece here is going to be on the right. And when they fold, you can see that this corner point here is going to line up with this center seam. So I am just going to take a second and make sure that I really line that up first. And then I'll match up my edges. Which, as long as you use the same seam allowance throughout, they should match up perfectly. And hopefully by lining up that center seam first, it'll be a perfect point. And we are pressing towards our step 3, our larger B and D triangle. So I'm going to press those seams first and then gently flip this open. Definitely don't want to pull because it can stretch very easy. And the center is kind of thick with all the seams coming together, so I'm just taking an extra minute to make sure I put heat there to really keep the seams open. All right, and it's not too bad. It's almost on center. Okay, and so now we are taking our piece that we made in step 1 and attaching it. So this is step 5. We are going to attach it directly to the left, and there's no center seam here, so I'm just gonna make sure I line up my blocks. clip everything nicely. Bring it to the machine. Alright, and we are pressing our seams to the right hand side. So I'm just going to give it a nice press in the back first. And then gently open it. And use my hands to pull it without stretching, or doing my best to not let it stretch. Again, in the center there's some seams coming together, and at each point in the top and the bottom. So I'm really giving it some extra heat to help it lay flat. Alright, so this completes our section 8A. You should have 2 of these, and you can put a little sticky note or something on it and set them aside. We're going to start 8B. Okay, so now we are ready to make section 8B. Again, we're making 2 of them. So in our instructions here, where it says 4, you're gonna make 4, but I'm only gonna do 2 because I'm gonna do the others live on my social media. So we'll follow along and start from the top. We need 2 square A's. And again, I'm just making sure that they are right side facing up. And 2 of our square C's, which is the lighter green for me for this one. Okay, and because these are just squares, I am going to not clip them, just hold them. And I'm actually going to do both at once. That way I don't have to do all the extra trimming of the threads and waste all that. So then I just snip them in the middle, snip them apart, and trim my threads. Okay, so we are pressing to the C fabric, which is the green. So I'm going to get the back of press and then gently open them. Okay, and we'll be using them in a minute, so I'm just going to set these 2 to the side because our step 2, we're going to do the same exact thing, but we are going to use 2 C squares and 2 F squares. So C again is the green, and F for me is the more blue fabric. So again, I'm going to sew on both at the same time. And I'm not going to clip them. Just take my time to line them up nicely. And the same thing here. Alright, and again we're pressing towards our C fabric, but this time it is on the left hand side instead of the right hand. And I really love just having this little iron. I can put it right here near my sewing machine. It fits on the sewing table. I don't have to worry about getting up. All right, so now we are on step 3, and we are going to take our step 1 and just attach it to the top of our step 2. So I'm going to make sure that I use clip for this. So our step 1 should be like this. And so our greens or your C fabrics are going to be opposite from each other. So I'm going to fold it down, and I'm going to make sure that I take my time, and you can see the seam in the middle here and there. I am lining them up. Our seams are pressed in opposite ways, so they should line up perfectly. And then I match my outside edges, and I'm going to do the same exact thing for this one. Since we need 2 or 4 technically, I'm going to do 2, and I am going to sew them at once. And as long as you used a consistent seam allowance, they should match up in length. Right, and then take this to the machine. Okay, and our seams are being pressed up towards the top, which has our A piece, which is my lighter color. So press the back, and then gently open and press again. And you can see where I had taken the time to line it up, so I have those almost perfect points in the center here. Really happy with how that turned out. And someone asked before about like the measurements not being exact. I honestly never pay attention to the measurements. So what I mean by that is, you can see it says measure 6.5 by 6.5. I know that my seam allowances are consistent throughout, so I just don't even bother measuring or trimming or anything. I found that if I need to, I could sew a bigger seam allowance or a little bit less somewhere and just like hide it in the seams. And again, the point looks great on that one. All right, I'll have to take a second to look. All right, I was looking extra close because the block that we are going to make now is almost identical to the ones that we just did, so I was confused for a second. All right, so now we have F and C, or sorry, step 4, C and A. So again, but this time our green is going to be on the left, or our C fabric is going to be on the left. and our A fabric is going to be on the right. Actually, yeah, it's a square. I'm just gonna sew it through, not even bother clipping. Okay, I'm gonna line this one up again. Okay, and we are again pressing towards our C fabrics. So for this one, it is on the left-hand side this time. Okay, I'm just gonna set them aside for a second because our step 5, we are making 2 again with F. I think I have an extra one of them. All right, I actually think that up here where it says 4 of these, it's because we're doing it down here, just reversing. Because if I do 4 up here and then 4 up down here, that would be 8 total and definitely not enough fabric. So I think these are actually supposed to be 2 and 2 or 2 and 2, or you can do all 4 at once, because I'll show you what I mean. For step 1 here, it was A and C. But down here, if we make 4 of them down here, it's C and A. So if you just reverse it, it's the same exact thing. So if you're doing 4 up here, you probably do not have enough to do 4 down here. And again, I'm gonna line these up with my hands. Again. All right, and then for these, they are pressing open towards our C side again, which is the green, if you have the Cornflower colorway. Right, so for step 6, we're doing the same exact thing. We are taking what we just made in step 4 and attaching it to the top of what we made in step 5. Okay, so the C colors should be opposite each other. And again, our seams are pressed towards the C sides, so our seams are just gonna nest nicely together. And then I'm gonna clip that first, and then match up the rest of my block. Right, and the same for this one. I'm just taking my time because that edge one, the edge didn't want to line up correctly, so I don't know if my seam allowance is a little bit off. Alright, that's a little bit better. So yeah, definitely take the time to arrange it so that way you'll be happy with the outcome. Okay, and then again for step 6 here, we are pressing our seams up towards the top with our A on the right hand side. I'll take a second, press the back, and then gently open this. Because even though they're squares, we don't know which direction they're cut. So they still could be like on a bias or on the stretchier side. And again, our point looks pretty good. I'm gonna put that one to the side. Make sure I do this here. All right, so yeah, you can see that as I did 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, and if you look, I have no more squares left. I only have this one that I think was actually cut and put in my pack as an extra. I only have the rectangles and the leftovers from 8A. So if you are sewing along with me or doing this on your own, these are actually 2 here. Or if you do the 4 up here, they're already going to be sewn and you're just reversing the order. Okay, so now we are on step 7. Let me put that aside. Step 7, we need 1 F rectangle and 1 B rectangle. Okay, and I'm definitely going to use clips because this is a larger piece. Alright, and it shows we are pressing towards our bottom rectangle. So for me, that is the white fabric. Okay, so now we are ready to put this together. We are taking one of our step 6, which has our A fabric on the right hand corner, and we are attaching it to the right of step 7, which is the rectangles we just made. So again, I'm going to take a second. You can see that there's a center seam here and a center seam here. So I am going to make sure I line them up first. If you followed the pressing instructions, your seams will nest together perfectly. So I'm going to clip that first and then clip my edges. Okay, and we are pressing our seams towards the center rectangle. So I'm going to make sure that I press that first and then gently open. And my center point came out pretty good. Okay, so now we are going to take the piece that we made in step 3, which has our A, so for the cornflower colorway, the gray, and it's going to be on the top left of this section that we just did. So again, I'm going to make sure I take my time and line up those seams. And again, due to if we pressed in the correct direction, they should be opposite of each other. Kind of a long piece here, and again it's being pressed towards the center rectangles. So I am going to do the back first and then gently open it. So it's such a big piece that it wants to go under my machine. All right, so this is our 8B piece, and you should have 2 of these as well. All right, so I hope you enjoyed sewing up month 8 with me. We have 2 different sections. We have 8A, so you should have 2 of these, and 8B. I feel like every month I'm like, ooh, this was my favorite, but I'm really love my colorway, and I'm so happy with how it's turning out. So let me know what you think of yours, and a couple more months, 2 more months, we'll have it all together. See you next month.